Hello and welcome to The Hearing. I'm John.
And from Chicago's North Side, I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's album, we're getting close to the end of the year. We only have 2 episodes left, so I've been putting together my best of the year list. I always do it a little bit early. Compulsive list maker.
I always cram at the last minute.
Yeah. Um, what's interesting about my list this year? It's mostly the new albums from young artists that I've been really pushing this year. But the list is bookended by the two oldest albums we've reviewed, and there's one older album in the middle. So it's like 7 new albums from younger artists, and then these 3 older albums that just happen to measure up. I was going to leave room for the last album we're reviewing this year, which I'll announce it now. It's Night of the Opera by Queen. I figured
Wow.
it was a
Yeah.
lock. I listened to it last night. I don't think it's going to make the list. I honestly don't think it's going to make it.
Do you want to change Queen albums or do you want to
No,
stick
no,
with Night of the Opera?
it's their iconic album. It's very Queen. It's if we're doing a Queen album, I'm going with that one. But
All right.
I know why I've never really been a big Queen fan. I respect them, but it's just not my cup of tea. Um, they don't beat out CCR for me, who is on the
Like,
bubble.
I was gonna say, we've done some amazing older albums. So, I mean, some of them are gonna have to make that list.
Well, yeah, 3. I won't name the other
Yeah.
two to avoid
Yeah.
spoilers. I just found it interesting that I've been pushing all for the younger artists, and my number one is one of the oldest we've reviewed. I think we might agree on that one, or at least, well, no, your number one's going to be obvious, but
Yeah.
I think my number one will probably be 2 or 3 for you. Um, anyway, on to this week's album, which is from 2025. What If I'm Right by Fireside Shadow. And when I say 2025, I mean 8 minutes ago for me and still in the future for you, because it's releasing on November 20th. Um, we're going to get this review out on release day. We've never done that before. Um, this should be a lot of fun.
We're on Central Time now. You're on Central Time too now.
No?
Well,
We're,
for this review,
oh,
yes.
yes, for this review. Okay. So I can roll the clocks back to an hour. I won't be up till 2 or 3 editing. That'll be good.
Yeah, you're gonna be up to 1 or 2 instead. However, you're gonna wake back up in Eastern
Yeah,
time.
it'll all work out. It'll all even out.
Yeah, yeah, you always lose something somewhere.
Uh, Fireside Shadow is a solo project from Minneapolis-based singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Reba Dougherty that combines elements of darkwave, industrial, alternative, pop, punk, and metal. What If I'm Right is her debut studio album. Reba has described the album as, quote, her personal journey going from being afraid of her own shadow, essentially, to getting to a point where she'll do what she needs to do. What If I'm Right was released independently on, as I said, November 20th, 2025, produced by Reba Dougherty with additional production from Randon Nelson, who also mixed and mastered the album, and features Reba Dougherty on vocals, keyboards, guitar, and programming, with additional musicians Brendan Corley, harsh vocals on Brimstone, Adam Gerlach, guitar on Sammy, Nick Juvie, aka The Respire, guitar on Glass Figure, Christopher Shara, bass on Is That a Consequence, and multiple people from around the world, including me, gang vocals on Is That a Consequence. Should mention, I know Reba from the independent artist community on Threads, so that's why I was able to, get in on the guest vocal on the one song. And also, why I'm going to be referring to her as Reba. I would normally refer to someone by their last name, but I know her, so it would be kind of weird to call her by her last name. Reminder, I don't edit any songs into our reviews for copyright reasons, but on our blog at johnandscotto.wordpress.com, you'll find links to What If I'm Right on Spotify and hopefully Bandcamp. It's not on there yet as we're recording, but I will check in a couple of hours or fill the link in tomorrow if I need to. So you can follow along if you'd like. Track 1, Is That a Consequence? Nice panning on that opening dialogue. Yes, there's opening dialogue. Love the
Right.
piano riff. Really good groove. Nice mix between the bass and the piano. The bass doesn't really stick out, but you can hear it if you take a nice close listen. Um, love the timing difference between the choruses. She starts the first chorus on the 1, and when the gang vocals come in, it shifts to the end of 1, right between 1 and 2. It just gives it a very different feel.
I love the weird vocal effects.
Mhm. And I love how that second pre-chorus fades in. When I was listening the additional musicians, I was half tempted to call them demon vocals instead of gang vocals. I stuck with gang vocals because that's what's is on the album. But yeah, there are more demon vocals. They swirl
Right.
really nicely. She asked us to do two or three different takes, and so I did three different versions of distortion, which is not normally
Okay.
what I do. Like before this, I only really did distortion on a live version of my song used to be live from home, I should say. Um, so it was just really fun to get to do harsh vocals for a change. And I loved Reba's distorted screams at the end.
Yeah, she has got a great voice.
Oh yeah.
And at first I'm thinking maybe too much so for this genre, but then but I think that's kind of the deal here, you
Mhm.
know? It's what you're not expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pin a genre on her stuff. I would go dark wave slash industrial for the most part,
Yeah.
and those are genres that are not known for these big, beautiful belting voices, but that's what Reba has, which kind of sets me up. I wasn't going to get to this yet, but the
Okay.
one ongoing slight criticism I have of the album is she puts a lot of effects on her voice, and it kind of,
Really?
for me, it kind of takes away from the clarity of it. There's always a lot of reverb and frequently some distortion, and I know it's a genre thing. It's who she was influenced by, what she's going for. I get it, but for me, it just kind of takes away from the clarity of this amazing voice.
I mean, if we're talking about categories, I mean, I would say
Mm.
predominantly and this is going to be sound weird, but metal, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's
metal influence, but it's kind of
like there's
sporadic.
like you can see the grunge influence
Mm.
and definitely the industrial.
Uh,
And honestly, I feel like this is the first metal album that I've liked in a very long time, you know?
uh,
And a lot of it is because when somebody's doing a metal album,
mm.
it's very paint within the lines kind of thing. It's very rigid. It's very, which to me, there's nothing that doesn't say metal, like, meeting expectation and filling into
Uh,
a, 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 a structure. Whereas here,
mm.
she's all over the
Yeah,
place, and that's what kind of makes it exciting.
yeah. It's interesting that you call it metal when the
Yeah.
instrumentation is like 80% synths.
Yes. I'm that's why I said it's going to sound weird. There's only one guitar solo on the album, but to
Mm.
me, that's the most metal thing you could do.
Yeah, and I should point out, when I criticize the vocals being masked or too affected, it's a minor criticism. I absolutely love Ruba's music.
Well,
Um,
you're into the voice, and
yeah,
it's getting in the way of you
yeah,
hearing the voice. But to me, it's it's definitely mixing it up, and you really never know what's going to come
yeah.
next
Right,
until
right.
even after listening like, three or four times like I have,
Uh,
we're like, wait, oh, that's coming in here now. It still kind of takes you off kilter,
right.
which is very enjoyable.
Uh, On to track two, Adderall. Love that opening quote unquote guitar part because I'm reasonably sure it's a synth, but it sounds a lot like a
Yeah.
guitar, really good guitar impression. Love the riff, which is basically the chorus melody. Um, Nice stop down before the verses. Great snare sound. Love the shouted background vocals in the chorus and those heavy percussion hits before the second verse. Um, I love the line, and if I could dwell on should, I think I'm having doubts.
It was a little hard for me to pick out specific lyrics of
Uh,
this one. I mean, the sound I loved. What? This is kind of the song where I really knew I was sold on this.
uh,
I accidentally listened to the single before this, "If It Isn't About You,"
uh,
before listening to the first track, and I was kind of worried that there wasn't going to be much like verse chorus action,
uh,
because both of them were kind of similar, where it's just this, you know, verse kind of
yeah.
repetitive chorus kind of thing.
She plays around with structure a lot.
Right. This one, I was like, whoa. Holy shit. Um, the sound is just beautiful with the chorus. It's
Mhm.
just so such a great sound to it,
Yeah.
and it was my strongest pick for when I was first listening to,
Uh,
but I've changed since.
if something else came
Yeah,
along to change your mind, um, love those distorted screams before the second chorus, and then a nice quiet bridge. Really nice touch, great contrast, and those pitched down harmonies in the bridge.
but yeah, you said she liked structure, and definitely that is really what jumps out at you here
Mhm.
because, and I think there was like a metal band we had done earlier this year where the every song structure was exactly the same.
Uh,
Whereas this, you don't know what you're getting
yeah.
until you're maybe even
Mhm.
halfway through it.
Yeah.
And even then, you're not so sure what you're going to get because the structure is just played around with so much
Yeah.
where this song is predominantly chorus or it's predominantly
Right.
verse or maybe it's a little both.
And as someone who in my own music is very focused on structure, because it's difficult for me to break from that. I have occasionally, but it's rare. I love hearing other people who are more comfortable with it just break from that and just give something interesting. Track three, Brimstone. Really like the groove on this one. It's in six. It's just got this nice flowing feel to it. Um, I think the guitar does mask the vocal a little bit,
Yeah.
but it does set up the mood nicely. Great verse melody. Love the synth bass sound. Love that quick buzzing sound that just announces that first chorus. She does some really interesting things right before the chorus in this one. There's a different sound in the second chorus. Great vocal contrast in the chorus. That's where you get the harsh vocals. And then you get Reba belting her part out.
This one I'm taking my hook as strongest.
Okay.
I think there was just this metal aggression to it,
Mm,
and then all of a sudden you pretty much have like a show tune
yeah,
section kind
I'm
of in the
glad you
middle.
went there too. It takes a complete left turn in the bridge, and I've always thought it sounded a little musical theater, which for either of us would typically be a big criticism, but it works in this case.
You're not expecting it there though.
Yeah,
I mean, it just balls out,
yeah,
metal, and then all of a sudden, wait, so there's only one other act I could think of that she must be a fan of, and
uh,
I am too, and obviously it's Faith No More.
yeah, yeah.
Because
I
who
hear it.
else?
Uh,
Who else would do this? And and the singing style too. I mean, Patton, of course.
hmm.
You know,
And there's some great layering in that section. You get another voice, over the voice on the left that comes in and responds. There's a line in there in the bridge that I didn't get until she practically explained it in a YouTube short. Well, I cannot stir you if you won't take my spoon. It made no sense to me until like she did this YouTube short where she pretty much explained you stir with a spoon. I kind of felt a little stupid after that. But I love
okay.
this. I love that sort of bass solo after the bridge and the way it kind of gradually adjusts the timing back into the chorus.
Yeah, that is the one thing we're missing on a lot of this album that, Faith No More would have had
Mhm.
featured more prominently, of course. That is
Well,
bass.
because Faith
There's
No
a
More
few
has
songs.
Billy Gold, and
Right,
this is
exactly.
except from one song, it's all synth. Reba's doing it all, so
Yeah.
she's not really going to feature that particular aspect necessarily. You only really feature it when you have a bass player who's demanding that
Right,
it be
right.
featured. Um, I also love the variations in the chorus melody at the end in the fade. On to track four, Saw Stars, and this is one of the three, along with the opening track and the one I'm going to pick for favorite that I hadn't heard before going into this. She started releasing music in August of last year, and the other seven songs were all released before then. I've heard them all, many times. So I think I had a bit of a novelty bias because I was really enjoying the songs I hadn't heard yet. Um, Love the opening synth part on this one. Nice vocal melody.
I keep wanting to say Bauhaus.
Interesting. I was thinking kind of new wave-ish. So they kind of
Yeah.
goth new wave kind of fit together.
Well, yeah. There's definitely a goth in here, and it's industrial, and
Yeah.
you can even hear that some of that grunge influence too.
Speaking of influences, this one in particular, and a lot of her stuff kind of reminds me of Berlin.
Hmm. Okay.
And the other day I was listening to The Metro, one of my favorite songs of theirs, one of my favorite songs of all time. Um, and I realized Reba could cover the fuck out of this. I sent her a message, mentioning that to her, and she said she'd check it out. I'm surprised she's never heard it because she does. She must have
I
been
don't think I'm
influenced.
familiar with it either.
Riding on the Metro. You've never heard it?
Oh, Metro. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm
Yeah.
trying to.
Anybody who
I
grew up
thought
in the
you said
80s has
something
heard that song.
else.
Yeah.
Like System of a Down did a great cover of it.
Um, but she could cover the shit out of that song, and vocally she reminds me a lot of Terry Nunn. Uh, so I was kind of surprised she hadn't heard it before. I guess her influences were influenced by them. They had to have been.
Yeah,
Love that riff, that bass riff before the verse and the bass part in the verse. Great busy percussion, great verse groove, great harmonies in the verse. I love that high synth part that comes in about halfway through and have the drums drop out at the end.
this was just such an oddball, curve
Yeah, yeah.
after like such a metal sh
Uh-huh.
song like Brimstone,
Yeah.
you come with this and it's like the keyboards and
Hmm.
the just this goth thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it works.
Track five, Glass Figure. Beautiful vocal melody on this one. I love how sparse the guitar part is in the verse. The Respire plays very tastefully there. Um, Great harmony in the second half of the verse. Great guitar tones when that riff comes in. It's a really nice mix of distortion and shimmer. Uh, Love the big percussion in the second verse.
A ballad made a lot of sense here.
Oh yeah,
You
perfect
can
place
hear
right in the middle.
just the Celtic, metal feel
Yeah.
to get to it. Uh, and that change in volume, I think it's like about 2:30 in,
Mm-hmm.
was just this nice kick in the ass.
Yeah.
You get this little piano in there, but it was a little too brief for me, but you know, it was just a little taste
I thought I heard some
towards
piano.
the
I
end.
wasn't sure. I do
Yeah.
love that big organ at the end. And there's unaccompanied vocals right before the last verse starts. I say bridge slash verse. Again,
Hmm.
structure's interesting here.
Right.
Track six, Perfect Memory. This is my pick for favorite.
And there's my piano.
Yeah. Great riff, great snare sound. Love the chorus melody. I like how the vocal in the chorus gets a bit kind of thin and a little nasally. Goes very mainstream pop with this
Right.
big guitar underneath of it.
Yeah, this is just a beautiful chaotic mess. This
Yeah.
one.
Then a really nice left turn into the verses. It just the groove changes entirely, the instrumentation, everything. Great guitar sound in the verses. Love that bass sound. Great groove in the second verse. Um, Another great left turn into the main riff after that. Love those whispered screams, as I'll call them, before the second chorus. And those little sound effects right before the third verse. I wasn't even sure what to call them.
Right.
If you kind of take like a door stopper, like those ones that are on springs, and kind of hit it, that sound, you get that sound right
Okay.
before the third verse, and some higher synth. It was wild. Nice guitar hits in the bridge. Loved the line, "Don't you dare try to have a line." That one hit hard. Uh,
Well, yeah, if you're not going to stick with that line and you're just going to pull
well,
back that
well, no,
line.
it's "Don't you dare try to have a boundary."
Oh,
That one hit me hard. Um, Love the piano part in the bridge. Great heavy guitar sound. And I love how that bridge kind of evolves. There's almost like three bridges. There's three sections to the bridge. It was interesting.
I'm always a sucker for interplay between piano and guitar like this.
Mm,
And just it's a great blend of metal and melodic.
yeah. Track seven, If It Isn't About You. Love the verse melody. Great drum part in the second half of the verse. Love the chorus riff. Great gang vocals. Really nice sparse start to the second verse. And there's this great kind of slow synth solo. I was watching this live acoustic gig that she live streamed on her YouTube channel a few months back. And she debuted this song. It hadn't been released yet. And they get to the instrumental break. And the guitarist who was accompanying her just starts singing the synth solo because it had to be there.
And the keyboard solo was a surprise here. It took a few listens for me to get into this one, to warm up to it.
Uh,
but yeah, because I kind of felt it was a bit on the repetitive side for me
Mm,
the first time I listened,
right.
but it goes easier when you're
Oh, yeah.
not listening critically.
Mhm. Track 8, Ghost Town. Great bass sound in part. Uh, love that high synth riff. Great vocal melody. Great groove in the chorus. Some great harmonies there, too. Um, some really nice layered vocals in the second verse. And in this one spot, I actually like distortion on her voice on the line "From the Grave." Um, Nice pitch down repeat of that on the right. I love those massive synth hits in the bridge. Great contrast to the really nice, light, pretty vocal. And I'm always a sucker for a spoken vocal. There's like one or two lines spoken there.
I I was thinking, yeah, are we getting like a cake influence here? We are building a religion. The keywords are kind of similar to,
Yeah, I can hear it.
I mean, and some of the spoken word stuff did remind me of it too. But
Mm,
I also felt a little, maybe, is there typo negative here? But really, it's Faith No More because this, you got the bass. It's probably the funkiest song on the
mm.
album with that crunchy uh, bass sound. I mean, it's probably a synth, but it kicks ass.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Reba's about 20 years younger than we are, roughly. So I'm gonna guess that like these '90s bands that we're pulling out were not necessarily influences on her, but she was influenced by people who were influenced by them.
Maybe.
Track 9, Sammy, like the delay on that opening synth part, great verse groove. It's almost kind of wrapped in the verse, like that nice bit of quiet. It almost goes completely silent. I think it does go completely silent for a second, right before the chorus. Great harmonies in the chorus. Love the line, "Let me be the wreck I'll be." Um, Love that high, sparse bridge. Great spoken repeats of the lyrics, and then it just gets chaotic, and there's this great guitar solo.
I don't know if it's like this big chorus that they've got here. It kind of has a whole Robert Fripp sound to it, but
Interesting.
I, where like Heroes, where he
Okay,
played that,
yeah, yeah, right.
you know,
The guitar part,
that
yeah.
that that wavery guitar
Mm-hmm.
sound that he was doing
All right, yeah, yeah.
throughout like the late 70s, early
Mm-hmm.
80s,
Yeah.
and I know way before.
Well, and the
But
interesting thing is
it's Fripp.
he did that on a guitar, and keeping that sound
Hmm.
going on a guitar is an interesting technical challenge. With a synth,
Of
you just hold the
course.
key down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you just make that in the
Yeah.
kind of in the I'm trying to remember the word for it in the setting.
Mm-hmm.
You could
Yeah.
easily program it to do
Right.
that. Um, the chorus just being so slight just kind of stands out so much
Mm-hmm.
because the the chorus is like this big, wall of sound.
Right.
And then you do, I think it's a verse that she's doing where she's doing the
Where she's
lower
kind of
part.
rapping. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, and of course, here we have our first guitar solo too.
Mm-hmm.
We're 9 tracks in.
Ha.
But yeah, this is a real big standout
Yeah.
track.
Track 10, Spider's Eyes. Love the bass part at the beginning. Great groove. I love the nice sparse opening to the verses that build and layer really nicely as they go along. Great chorus melody, great harmonies, great contrast into the bridge. It slows down, gets very mellow, and she goes very high with the vocal. And then we get this like swirling bass sound. Great build through that. I'll call it a last verse. And there's no ending chorus. It just goes from this soft, pretty bridge to this thing that kind of sounds like the verses a little bit.
I love the keyboards on this. It's this nice, weird accent to what could be a metal song,
Mm-hmm.
but I, I can't think this is where I figured it out, like why I dug this so much. And it was just, could you some people say this is not metal? And the answer, of course, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Just all over the place. This is just gonna play with the structure and make it serve the song.
A few years ago, I learned that genres in music were a marketing ploy created by the record industry by when it was first started. Because before recorded music, you had whatever was playing at the tavern at down the road, or whatever you played at home, or you had rich people's music. Yeah,
Right.
nobody needed to put things in categories. It was whatever music was available to you. You didn't really care what it was called. When they had to market it, they had to give it a name. So yeah, I've begun to care less about genre names and categories.
But I mean, metal used to mean something. It
Oh, sure.
used to
It
mean
still does. There is still metal.
experimental. It used to mean rebellion,
Mm-hmm.
and it used to mean aggression.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, it's mostly been, you know, a historical reenactment, a Colonial Williamsburg kind of thing
There is some
of
some
just
museum pieces out there. There's also some very modern metal.
right. Whereas this, I feel, sure, we've heard all this stuff before, but this is what we're gonna do with it. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
run and take this and make this our own,
Right.
which
Yeah.
more bands need to do.
Mm-hmm. And finally, track 11, Cut You Out. Love that high synth part in the opening. Great bass sound, nice groove. Great soft vocal in the verse. Beautiful melody.
It's very Black Sabbath.
Yeah. The chorus melody is very catchy. Love the line, sometimes when the trouble bubbles, I can't hear my own voice. And then I love when it cuts out everything except her vocal, repeating cut you out and bass. Great bass sound there. Great drums during the bridge. Nice mix of singing and speaking. I will say, and this is a super, super nitpick, but I noticed it. The end of the song cuts off before the cymbal finishes decaying.
Oh,
It's synth drums, so I don't know if that's how that cymbal sound ends. I don't know if it finishes decaying or if it was prematurely cut off. Again, super, super nitpick. I just happened to catch it this time. I've heard this song many times before and never caught it, but listening critically, you notice this sort of thing.
also in this, I pick some Saint Vincent
Yeah, okay.
going on here, I
Uh-huh.
feel.
Do you recommend it?
Yes, I do, very much so.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Reba's music. Like I said, I've heard most of these songs a billion times. I absolutely strenuously recommend it. And that's it for What If I'm Right. Until next time, when we'll be reviewing Argy Bargy by Squeeze as a tribute to the late, great Gilson Lavis. Until then, of course, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.